And now I am thrilled to be joined by ESPN NBA draft analyst Mike Schmitz right here in our LA studio. Mike, you are hosting a draft special called Prospect to Pro that airs tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. I'm going to give you guys a little sneak peek of Mike's conversation with one of the top prospects, Anthony Edwards.
What's going through your mind when a defense is retreating?
My trainer always tell me when the defense bagging up, they at your that's when you got them. That's when you got them. So when they bagging up on me, I just watch their feet. Like most defenders, when they bagging up, they don't want me to get to the rim, so they want me to shoot. So I have to shoot the ball sometimes to let them know that I can shoot, and I'm not afraid to shoot the ball. So sometimes they come up, and once they come up, that's when I get to my in. A lot of people go for my in and out a lot because I think I sell it a lot. But majority of the time when I get down here, it's more of my body because I'm always bigger than the defender that's guarding me. So that's most of the time,
Yeah, and you mentioned it here. Like they're expecting you to get downhill, right? So you have the little guard who's on his heels, backs up, boom,
see?
Pop,
in
and out.
The in and out.
Yes,
I can tell. I can tell they watch film on that because when I did the in and out, he took his first step back. And I'm like, I'm not scared to shoot the ball.
So you're reading that as you're coming down.
Every time someone's guarding, I'm always reading that.
First of all, you getting to sit down and watch film with these guys is so cool. This is going to be such a good show tonight, and I love that line from him. Sometimes you got to shoot. Sometimes you got to let him know. Why are scouts so excited about Anthony Edwards and his potential?
He's the most effortless scorer in the draft. You know, I was out in Maui when we sat down for that film session, and I saw firsthand 37 points against Michigan State. He looked like an NBA All-Star, you know, making threes off the dribble, step backs, and his ability to get to his spots reminds me a little bit of James Harden. Now, not as accomplished of a player as James, but 6'5", 230 pounds, 6'10" wingspan, can get downhill, and then can stop on a dime as well. So he's going to be a bona fide scorer from the day he steps in the NBA. Now, needs to prove himself as a winner, as a defender, as a decision maker, but scoring the ball, he's one of one in this draft.
Yeah, by the way, I like how you slipped that in. You know, when we were in Maui, says Mike Schmitz.
Good living.
Must be nice. What about the Dwayne Wade comparisons? Because we've seen him and Dwayne go back and forth on Twitter, right? And Dwayne said, hey, I think he might even be better than me.
I think that's a lot to put on him. You know, he wasn't quite the winner, the competitor that Dwayne was. Dwayne, obviously, a Hall of Fame player. So I think that's a lot to put on a kid like Anthony Edwards. But I hope for him he can reach that level because the talent is certainly there.
Yeah, I mean, there's some current players who get a little bit annoyed if a guy who, frankly, hasn't done anything yet in the league, because, of course, he hasn't been drafted yet. So those comparisons start to bubble up. I like Dwayne going all the way the other way. Like, absolutely, he's going to be so good, better than me. Okay, kid, let's see you go. So there's a little bit of that, too. I want to run through some NBA draft superlatives. So first up, Mike, who is the best overall prospect in your mind?
LaMelo Ball. He's in a class of his own in this draft. He's a 6'7" point guard who can make every pass in pick and roll. He's incredibly instinctual, creative, and he's really Showtime. I mean, reminds me a little bit of Trae Young just in terms of the wow factor that you get with him. Now, he's not that level of shooter. You know, he's bigger, obviously, at 6'7", but similarly ball dominant, a guy you kind of got to hand the keys to and say, hey, you're our engine now. But he is really, really impressive to watch in the open court. He makes everyone around him better. Small sample size we're working off of with those 12 games in Australia, but in terms of the upside, the creativity, the star power, he has all of that.
I'm so interested in this because Brian Windhorst was on our show yesterday, and he said, look, I know Jonathan Givony, you, Kevin Pelton, our colleagues here at ESPN, are all putting LaMelo not just at the top, but you guys are all saying you think he is one of one, sort of that tier one class by himself. And yet Brian said that he's talking to scouts and executives around the league, and he is not hearing front offices feel that way about LaMelo. Why do you think there's a disconnect there?
Just his lack of a resume. You know, he's bounced everywhere, right? Chino Hills, he was there. He was at Spire Academy. He went out to Lithuania. I saw him play out there in the cold, not as warm as Maui, and then went to see him in Australia. So he's had all these different stops, and I think teams are trying to make sense of, if we bring him into our organization and we're a losing team and we want him to right the ship, is he going to do that? Is he going to go through the dog days that oftentimes you endure when you're one of these franchises, frankly, drafting in the top 5? So teams want to see him really fight through those things. They want to get to know him as a person before they feel comfortable kind of handing him the keys.
I just think it's fascinating, too, in the larger context, right? And by the way, I just want to make clear, I am not comparing LaMelo Ball to Luka Doncic. I'm not going to say they're the same player or the same future. But we did see with Luka executives on certain teams when there was an unconventional path to the NBA, when it wasn't the American sort of college system, even though there's plenty of guys who've come over from EuroLeague in the past, but it wasn't what they could touch and feel in the same way as these American kids, there were front offices that said, we don't know, and they passed on him, and of course regret that now. I will be interested. LaMelo Ball was such an unconventional path, and so many more kids coming up with an unconventional path. If some of the evaluation process is going to change over time, we will see. That doesn't help LaMelo this year. We'll see what happens with him. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.